Yubel is here and it's definitely top tier. I'm going to show you 3 must-know combos and a bonus super combo for Yubel, so you can be top tier yourself. Now let's look on over to Yu-Gi-Oh! Meta real quick. Looking at the tier list, you can see that Yubel is a top 5 deck in the TCG and #1 in the OCG. So it's going to have a good future as it's going to be played with Fiendsmith soon in the future. And even without Fiendsmith, doing very well in the TCG looking like this. Now the deck right now does not have Varudras. So if you look at the TCG combos, they're going to mislead you with summoning this as we do not have it. And for these combos, we're going to be using Cross Sheep, as you can see, very popular within TCG decks. Now without further ado, let's hop into combo number 1, which is going to be with 1 Nightmare Throne. And then we're going to also have after that 1 Samsara, and then after that 1 Dark Beckoning Beast, and then a super bonus combo with Dark Beckoning Beast, which you definitely want to be watching. So Nightmare Throne is a very good field spell, which will be activating to search our deck or destroy a 0 attack, 0 defense fiend. So we have Samsara D Lotus, which will normal summon to then tribute to summon from the deck a Spirit of Yubel. Now you could use Nightmare Throne instead of searching. You could destroy a Spirit of Yubel from the deck, which will trigger its effect to summon a Yubel onto the field, and then you could instantly make the fusion monster Phantom of Yubel, which will protect you from cards like Ash Blossom or a Maxi if for some reason they held on to it. Now you could summon this early within a duel by just using your hand. Return 2 Yubel cards, a Yubel plus a 0 attack / 0 defense fiend, and that's going to be a good way to play around Maxi if they do not Maxi in the draw phase. So you are either going to use the Nightmare Throne to start your combo or protect your combo. And this is why a lot of decks are teching in Nightmare Throne. There are Snake Eye decks playing it just for that, just to make a Phantom of Yubel. Now, enough yapping, we're going to Spirit of Yubel. Search or set a Nightmare Pain is going to be our play. You search it, you're more susceptible to a card like Droll and Lockbird, so we want to set it onto the field ideally. And then flip up the Nightmare Pain, activate Nightmare Pain to non-target destroy a dark monster we control or in the hand, and we're going to be searching for a Grave Squirmer. Now, as we were talking about, the Spirit of Yubel when destroyed will be activating, and then the other effect of Nightmare Throne, if a card we control is destroyed, if it leaves the field by card effect, that is, from either opponent making that happen, it's going to activate to summon a monster onto the field. First, it's going to add it to the hand, then summon it, and it has to be within 1 level of the monster that's destroyed. So we're going to grab the Yubel Terra Incarnate, which will be a level 11. The Spirit of Yubel is going to resolve, summoning a Yubel onto the field. And then we're going to link these 2 monsters off into a Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep is here. Now we're going to return from the graveyard or hand or field back in the deck to inherently special summon from the extra deck a Phantom of Yubel, which will be able to negate any monster effect. And you could summon more than 1 in 1 turn. It's not restricted in any way. That's going to trigger the Cross Sheep because we're summoning it to where it's pointing to reborn from the grave a level 4 or lower monster. We're going to summon a Samsara D Lotus. They're going to use the Squirmer, special summon. It has the additional effect of destroying a monster we control, but we don't want to do that. We're then going to link off into a Lord of Yama. Lord of Yama is going to be searching our deck for a Shavara, and yes, unfortunately, Yama is not optional in Yubel. It is ultra rare, so is the Shavara. Let's link off the entire field into an Apollo USA, triple monster negate. Now going to use the other effect of Grave Squirmer to banish itself to reborn a monster from the grave. We're going to be reborning Spirit of Yubel. Now, Spirit of Yubel is not a hard once per turn on its destruction effect of summoning a Yubel onto the field. So we're going to be doing it again. Shavara, pop the Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel, trigger, summon a Yubel from the deck. Now we're going to link them off into an Unchained Soul of Rage. We're going to trigger the Shavara to set from the deck an Escape of the Unchained. Now, some people are instead playing a card like Chamber. If you use Chamber, you could use the Soul of Rage for a link summon, getting it into the graveyard, then reborning. But I do think that Escape of the Unchained is going to be a lot more versatile and better overall. But the requirement to make Escape of the Unchained good is you can't use your effect of Yama in the grave to banish itself to reborn a monster from the grave on your own turn. We're going to want to use the Escape of the Unchained to pop the Rage, popping another card in the field, triggering the Yama during the opponent's turn. So you got to be careful about that. It's a 3-card combo here, Yama, Rage, and Escape. So let's keep on going. Now we're going to return from the graveyard into the deck, Yubel to summon a Phantom of Yubel. Now what do we have here? We have a lot here. We have a monster negate, monster negate, monster negate. That's triple disruption on Apollo mate. We then have Phantom of Yubel, another monster negate. And then we have the Soul of Rage, which could link off an opponent's monster. Do you count that as a disruption? We're up to 5. We have Escape of the Unchained, which will pop a card in the field, so we're at 6. And then the Soul of Rage will be going into a card like Little Knight, which on summon will banish a card in the field or in the grave. We're now at 7 disruption. If they activate a monster effect, the Little Knight will then banish itself or any monster we control plus their monster. That's 8 disruptions I'm counting. If you want to count Soul of Rage being that many disruptions, linking off and then banishing with the Little Knight. Now, before activating the Soul of Rage, it's very important that you want to use your Escape of the Unchained first, or you're going to lose out on that disruption. So let's see a nice little example on how to use our disruptions. And also, the Nightmare Pain is forcing the opponent to attack into any of our Yubel monsters. So if our Soul of Rage is being threatened by a bigger monster, or the Apollo USA is getting nice and small from negating, they are fully protected as they go into the battle phase. They have to swing into Phantom of Yubel. We take no battle damage. We also reflect the battle damage, and we cannot be destroyed by battle. It's crazy. So let's keep on going. They're going to special summon. I'm going to take this opportunity to pop it. So we're taking out the Soul of Rage with the Escape. Now, Escape could pop anything. Any back row field spell monster, it's whatever you want, so be careful on how you use it, but you do want to use it before you activate the Rage effect. That will trigger the Lord of Yama. If any of our cards are destroyed by battle or card effect, we're going to be banishing it to reborn any fiend monster from the grave. So this could have instead reborned a Yubel monster, but we want the Soul of Rage effect. So Soul of Rage, come forth, back onto the field. And also, the Soul of Rage, when destroyed by battle or card effects, could add a fiend in the graveyard back to the hand. I'm going to grab Lotus for a follow-up play. And we got the Rage back here. They're going to special summon another Fenrir. They're going to activate the Mo Yi. Now we have triple monster negate on the Apollo, so it's a free negate. Let's negate that special summon token. And then we're going to add on top of that a Soul of Rage. Linking off within the main phase only, it has to target a special summon monster. Link it off into Little Knight's going to be our main play. Little Knight on summon, activate, banish a card on the field or in the graveyard. Either field, either graveyard. And we also have the secondary effect of banishing itself plus another card, which I know I already talked about, but there's a very cool play with the Nightmare Throne. If you're playing against a stun deck, like a runic deck, what you could do is you could use Little Knight to banish herself plus your own card like Phantom of Yubel, and it's going to come back during the end phase, but then the Nightmare Throne will trigger off of your own Little Knight to be able to special summon your banished cards back on the field. So if it's continually getting banished, that's a good little tip for a stun deck. They're going to special summon their Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. Now they're now special summoning a Dark Magician. We're going to use the Phantom of Yubel effect. And I keep on saying it negates, but it actually changes the effect. And what's really cool about changing the effect is if their monster is unaffected by effects, which means they cannot be negated by something like an Apollo USA, but with the Phantom of Yubel, you could still change their effect, which is kind of a pseudo negate that gets around them being unaffected from effects, which will be really important for when Tempai Dragon comes out in the future. So remember that. We're going to be popping a Yubel from our deck, which is what the effect changes to, as we then summon a Yubel onto the field. Now, Yubel, not the monster Yubel, the other ones, but regular Yubel plus Nightmare Pain is double damage. So you'll see that in a bit. They're going to activate the Mad Lad. We're going to be negating with Apollo USA. We have another negate. And the best counter to Little Knight is simply go to battle phase, swing over her. Or a tiny Apollo USA, swing over her. But what did we say earlier? You're in the battle phase. They have to attack. It's not optional. They have to do it. It's not a stupid computer here. They must declare the attack. Onto Yubel. Burn for 3k and reflect 3k. 6,000 damage with Yubel. So if they have 4,000 damage on the field in attack position, which Link monsters must be in attack position, otherwise this monster could have been in defense, they would be inflicting 8,000 damage to themselves within the battle phase if you have a regular Yubel on the field. Now we're going to just be ending this combo as this. I'm going to, here's a big thing. You want to, with the Nightmare Pain, with multiple Yubels, including the Phantom of Yubel, swing into their monsters in your own battle phase, just like Makonko. So it's also another way to just finish up the duel. All right, let's hop into the next combo, which will be a single Samsara Lotus. And I do want to note that within our one throne combo, we relatively got out quickly our Phantom of Yubel, which helped protect us from hand traps and something like Nibiru. And then we also went into an Apollo USA. Now, there were moments where they could have Nibiru'd us, but it wouldn't have been that good, especially if we have more cards in our hand. Now, with the Samsara D Lotus, only this card, unfortunately, we do play into a Nibiru if we want to make an effective turn 1 field. So let's see what that looks like. Samsara D Lotus, tribute summon from the deck. Come forth, Spirit of Yubel, setting up our Nightmare Pain as we did in the first combo. We're going to Nightmare Pain, pop the Spirit of Yubel, grab a Grave Squirmer here, trigger the Spirit of Yubel, summon from the deck a Yubel, Grave Squirmer activates, summon onto the field, which activates on either player's turn, by the way. And then on the resolution, optionally destroy Yubel, summon a Terror Incarnate from the deck. Link this off into a Cross Sheep. Very popular in the TCG. We're now going to be returning 2 cards in the graveyard to summon our Phantom of Yubel to where the Cross Sheep's pointing to reborn from the grave our Samsara D Lotus. And this is where we're getting rid of our Monster Negate. We're going into an Unchained Soul, where in the other combo, we were able to keep a Phantom of Yubel in the field and then go into an Apollo USA. So this is where we're kind of opened up here. But let's say they do activate Nibiru. They wipe out this field. We still have the Shavara in the hand, and we have Grave Squirmer in the graveyard to banish, reborn the Spirit of Yubel, and then we're going to make some great plays after that. Now, if they don't Nibiru here, which is their last opportunity to do so, we're going to make our Apollo USA. Now they cannot Nibiru. All right, Grave Squirmer, banish from the grave, come forth and summon a Spirit of Yubel. I think I was incorrectly saying there was a bigger opening to activate the Nibiru during our first play combo with the 1 throne, but they actually had to Nibiru quite early, and it wouldn't be that effective, but it would stop us in a bit. Okay, so hopefully you didn't get confused there. We're going to pop the Spirit of Yubel with the Shavara, summon from the deck a Yubel. As the Spirit of Yubel is activatable more than once per turn, Shavara triggering, set from the deck, and Escape of the Unchained, and then Yubel plus another monster return back into the deck to make our Phantom of Yubel. Now, if you want to see this fully play out, just watch the first combo. Again, I'm just going to highlight that you want to use Escape of the Unchained first, and then use your Soul of Rage afterward. So that's going to trigger the Yama, trigger the Rage, add a card in the graveyard back to our hand, reborn the Rage, link off of the special summon monster they control. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. Let's hop into another play. Now this will be 1 Dark Beckoning Beast, which you definitely want to be playing in this deck. What's great about the Dark Beckoning Beast is it has incredible versatility with Yubel, which I'm going to talk into as we get to the cards. The Nightmare Throne is a card that could search the Dark Beckoning Beast if you wanted to. So if you had everything else and you want to normal summon the Dark Beckoning Beast, go ahead. So we're going to open up with just a Dark Beckoning Beast, normal summon. It's going to activate search in our deck for a card that mentions Yuria in it. And the opening of the Spirit Gates, what's cool about this, it could reborn any of your Yubel monsters besides the Terror Incarnate. It could reborn your Samsara D Lotus. So that is some insane synergy. We're going to now be activating the Spirit of the Gates. And let's say let's say we opened up the opening of the gates, and then we normal summon a Dark Beckoning Beast, and then they negate it with an impermanence. That would not be nice. Well, we want the other effect of Dark Beckoning Beast. Usually, we want to be able to normal summon our Samsara D Lotus in addition. So you can see right here, we're performing an additional normal summon through the continuous effect. But if that's negated through an impermanence, we're then stuck with the Samsara D Lotus in the hand that we maybe wanted to normal summon. And the play around that would be, you're going to, with your normal summon Dark Beckoning, make an Almirage. Almirage will get the Dark Beckoning in the graveyard, which then makes the opening of the Spirit Gates a legal activation to discard the Samsara D Lotus to then reborn it onto the field and make plays from there. But we're not doing that play, but it's just giving you the idea of the synergy with the Spirit of the Gates. Making an Unchained Soul, Lord of Yama. We're going to activate search our deck for a Shavara. We're going to discard Shavara with the Spirit Gates, reborning a Dark Beckoning, Shavara trigger, set up the Escape of the Unchained. Then we're going to link this off into an Unchained Soul of Rage. Now this is a very simple combo that has no Yubel cards whatsoever to make. And it's still a decent amount of disruptions here. It's far from ideal. You'd rather have your Yubel cards. But if you want to do this instead, we're going to pop a card, trigger the Rage, and Yama, reborn our Spirit of Rage, the Soul of Rage that is. They're going to special summon the Magician's Souls. We're going to link off with their Kashtira, making the Little Knight. Little Knight on summon's going to activate to banish a card in the field or in the grave, get banishing. And then we have our last form of disruption through this very easy mini play, banishing the Mo Yi in response to it activating. Now, let's go into the final super wombo combo play with Dark Beckoning Beast, and I'm going to show you how to get into your Yubel cards with Dark Beckoning Beast. It requires you to have at least one other card in your hand, so let's get to it, let's do it, let's go. I really like this play. And it's going to require you to play a card in your extra deck and in your deck that you may not want to play. And that's okay. If you don't want to play this version, you could skip over this. This is why this is at the end of the video. This will be how I play the deck myself, though. So we'll tell you when those cards happen. You only need one other card. A second card in your hand makes the combo even better, and you'll know when we're using the second card here. So these could be any two cards plus your Dark Beckoning Beast. Let's do it. Dark Beckoning, activate, search our deck for the opening of the Spirit Gates. Let's speed this up. Search our deck for the Dark Beckoning Beast. Additional normal summon. Come forth and make the Lord of Yama. Lord of Yama, activate, search our deck for the Shivara. And then we're going to discard Shivara, reborn from the graveyard, Dark Beckoning Beast, trigger to set from the deck, Escape of the Unchained. And now we're getting wild here. This is from the extra deck, a Super Producer. This is in many extra decks in the TCG and OCG. This is not some wild YouTube wombo combo, so it is in tournament topping decks, but it's not in the majority of them. And also remember, Varudras is in the TCG, we don't have that, and in the OCG they have Fiendsmith. So any future decks from here on out are even less likely to have this combo, but because we don't have Fiendsmith, we don't have Varudras, this is why I really think this is an incredible combo to do. Now, the Super Producer simply has a quick effect within the main phase of either player's turn to pop a card we control that's face up. We're going to pop the Spirit Gates. That's going to trigger the Yama. Now, Yama's going to be reborning from the graveyard, the Shivara, popping the Escape. Now, Shivara locks you into Fiend monsters only. You cannot special summon except Fiend monsters, but if it's not summoned through its own effect, you're not locked into Fiend-type monsters only. So by popping the Escape of the Unchained through the effect of Yama reborning, we're going to play a Garnet. Yes, Shiyama. Now, playing against a lot of stun decks on the random TCG simulator, Shiyama came into play so many times for me, being able to pop back row, popping my own cards, triggering effects. So beyond this Garnet play, Garnet meaning it has to be in the deck to summon through the Escape of the Unchained. By the way, it doesn't summon from the hand, unfortunately. It does have other use. But for this, so this is why you would maybe not want to do this combo. If you don't want to play Shiyama, that's fine. Then you don't have to watch this combo. We're making Beatrice, which is not a Fiend. As I said, we're not locked into Fiend monsters. Beatrice is a card that may very well likely get banned in the future. We're going to Beatrice, send from the deck any card we want. Now we're getting access to our Yubel cards by sending a Samsara Lotus. Now we're making Muckraker. Muckraker is going to lock us into Fiend-type monsters only. So if you really like Apollo USA, I'm sorry, we can't summon her for the rest of this turn, but I have other cards that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be reborning the Samsara Lotus. And by the way, this extra deck is going to be exactly how I intend to play the deck. Just like this. I may put in a Garura, possibly, maybe. Otherwise, I believe that this is going to be exactly how I play it on Friday and beyond that. Reborning the Samsara Lotus, summon from the deck a Spirit of Yubel. Now, because we're locked into Fiend-type monsters only, we're going to have to do some crazy plays. We're going to Nightmare Pain, pop the Yubel, search for a Gruesome Grave Squirmer, trigger Spirit of Yubel, summon from the deck a Yubel. We're going to activate the Squirmer, summon, pop a Yubel, summon from the deck the Terra Incarnate. We're going to link this off into another Yama. So I'm playing a second copy of Yama. A lot of players in the TCG tournament topping deck list, they are playing a second Yama, and they are also, in addition to that, playing, a lot of them are playing Cross Sheep. We're going to be, now the majority are playing one Yama, by the way. Just want to make that clear. But the majority are playing Cross Sheep, which we also can't summon within this turn. So we're going to return 2 Yubel cards in the graveyard back in the deck to summon our Phantom of Yubel. Grave Squirmer is going to reborn a monster from the grave, our Spirit of Yubel. We're going to use the Unchained Soul of Yama to pop a card we control to summon itself from the grave, which will trigger Spirit of Yubel to summon a Yubel from the deck. Now we're going to link 4 into Nightmare Griffin. You do not need to activate Nightmare Griffin. You don't have to discard this card, but it makes the combo a lot better because it's going to allow us to set any card from the graveyard that's a spell or trap onto the field. And what were we forced to pop to get access to our cards? The Escape of Unchained. So we're going to recycle the Escape of Unchained by discarding a card, not only recycling, but also drawing an additional card, maybe drawing into more disruption like another Impermanence. But to not cheat, I'm not going to set it. Now, we're going to return from the graveyard to summon our Phantom of Yubel. We're going to again summon our third and final copy of Phantom of Yubel to then make our final board piece into the Unchained Soul of Rage. Now, let me explain this field. The Nightmare Griffin is an absolute nightmare for the opponent. Special summon monsters on both sides of the field cannot activate their effects unless they are linked. So a link arrow needs to be pointing to another monster from them, or the monster itself needs to be pointed to by another link monster. So the Phantom of Yubel can activate, the Muckraker can activate, the Nightmare Griffin itself can activate, and the Unchained Soul of Rage can activate. Now, if my opponent special summons a monster in front of the Muckraker, they can't activate because she doesn't point forward. So the way to balance the Nightmare Griffin is that it points forward, but we're cheating by putting it into the main monster zone and then making a link monster that doesn't point forward. So we get around that downside of being able to link with the opponent's monster with our own link arrow. And the Unchained Soul Rage points forward, but that does not count for their main monster zone in the middle. So anywhere they summon is a checkmate. They cannot be linked and their special summon monster will not activate. Now, this is not absolutely impervious, right? Well, what they could do is they can make a link monster that points backwards, and then while that link monster itself at the moment cannot activate, they then summon another monster to where that link monster is pointing to, then they can activate. Also, there's a really cool thing with the Lord of Yama. Lord of Yama states that it can reborn any fiend monster if a card in the field is destroyed. Now, if the Nightmare Griffin is destroyed, we could reborn Nightmare Griffin itself. I know you keep on seeing Soul of Rage get reborn, but Nightmare Griffin being reborn with Yama, that is nuts. So if the opponent, let's say they activate a triple tactics talent, they take control of your Griffin, you could use your Escape of the Unchained to pop the Soul of Rage and pop the Griffin, and then trigger the Yama to reborn the Griffin back on the field if they were to take control of your Griffin, which happened many times against me when I was playing against decks like Tenpai. So there's a lot of versatility with this field. Let's see what they could do. The computer's gonna get confused. They can't activate Fenrir, they can't activate their alternative White Dragon. They're going to, for some reason, special the Magician's Souls, tribute for Dark Magician. They're panicking because none of their cards are activating. Now, what's funny about this field is, again, the Nightmare Pain, protecting the Griffin from being attacked into. They can't even attack in a Muckraker. Muckraker is also a form of protection. If any of our cards would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you could tribute a fiend instead to protect our card from being destroyed. So going in, reflect the battle damage, and let's say you don't have another Yama in the graveyard. Well, the Escape of the Unchained, destroying the Soul of Rage, can be protected from being destroyed by using the Muckraker to tribute itself instead of the Soul of Rage being destroyed. So that's another way if you don't play a second Yama. So let's go, but we're going to get popping with it because we do play that second Yama. I'm going to keep the Muckraker in the field, not going to tribute itself. We still have the Phantom of Yubel, negate a monster effect. We still have Soul of Rage, link off with their monster. Now, unfortunately for us in this scenario, the Soul of Rage is not going to be able to link off with Dark Magician to make an SP Little Knight because it requires 2 effect monsters. So if I were to have popped the Dark Magician instead, leave up the alternative White Dragon, we could have then linked up with it. It is activatable. It is being linked with the Nightmare Griffin. And then, just like that, we could reflect battle damage for game. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. And then we are done. All right. So those are the 4 combos, and I appreciate you for watching. Make sure you check out the Twitch streams where I'm going to be leaking the next pack, or maybe you're watching this video months later and this deck is still good, as it definitely should be. So I'm going to be re-looking onto the website and show you what's the best deck list for you to be playing for this deck. So what you want to do is you're going to want to, on Master Duel Meta, you're going to want to look out for the deck on the tier list, which I think after a few tournaments, it's going to be on the tier list. And once it makes it onto the tier list, you're going to be able to click on the deck type breakdown, or you could search it right here, okay? Deck type, type in Yubel. Now, the deck just came out, so there's no deck list in Master Duel at the moment. So we go here, we got nothing, but it's ready and waiting for once it starts topping master rank and topping tournaments. We're going to have the deck breakdown, the top extra deck, the best Yubel deck list, a sample deck list. And in addition to its deck type breakdown, you could click on TCG to look at that, or OCG to see the tournament top and deck list from there. 1,000-player tournaments if you want to look at that instead. And another thing, on the top decks page, just wait for the new card filter to be listing a bunch of new decks as, again, whoa, Yubel right here already? Yubel with Labyrinth. Okay. So looks like Yubel is the only deck so far that with new cards got a win streak within Master. So finally good to have Yubel Lab available. Good job, Jay in 4K. So big shout out to you, my friend, playing it with Labyrinth. And, this is definitely not a standard way to play it. And we're listing it under, it looks like we had it listed under Yubel, then we're listing it under Labyrinth. So we switched it on over to that. That's fine. And we got some comments here. So there you go. Good job, Jay in 4K. Proud of you, my friend. Thank you for sharing your deck list. And if you want to have fun with other ways to play the deck, there you go, Labyrinth. And I am done with this video. I'll be seeing you on twitch.tv/Decade as we're hosting tournaments weekly, leaking future packs weekly, all that good stuff. Thank you very much. We are out.